Hello everyone, Ace here, and today, well, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and say it. The censorship in the HD remaster of Commandos 2 is so severe that it's actually hate speech against the Japanese. And I know that sounds like an utterly absurd claim, especially given the fact that this censorship was in the name of political correctness. However, I am 100% confident that by the end of this video, you will be agreeing with me on this. But first, I do believe a little bit of context here is absolutely essential. So let's talk about the Commando franchise itself, which is the game franchise that is best known for popularizing the subgenre that is the stealth RTS. A comparatively niche but nevertheless beloved type of strategy game, specifically centered around the idea of leading only a handful of units behind enemy lines, primarily relying on stealth and subterfuge to accomplish your objectives. Another thing to note is that while games from this subgenre are notoriously difficult for players, they also are well known for being quite rewarding. So you may be wondering just how exactly Commandos 2 is viewed within that particular community. And the simple answer is that it is easily one of the most famous, most beloved, and most popular titles of not only that franchise, but that entire subgenre. In other words, screwing up an HD remaster of Commandos 2 is essentially the stealth RTS equivalent of screwing up an HD remaster of Super Mario Bros. 3. It's an amazingly effective way of drawing ire from the entire community of that subgenre. Which brings me to the official HD remaster of Commandos 2, which came out only a few days ago. Because considering how things are going, you'd swear the developers are actively trying to alienate the community. And I could talk about all kinds of problems that this game has. I could talk about the fact that some of the animations in the HD remaster are actively worse than the original game from 2001. I could talk about the widespread reports of bugs within this game. I could even talk about some of the missing features, such as the lack of co-op and what is supposed to be a definitive remaster. But as you may have guessed from today's topic, I will instead be talking about the game's censorship, and how this is the shining example of how the developers have managed to reach a new low. Now, given that the Commando franchise is set during World War II, it's not exactly difficult to guess what some of the certain symbols that have been censored actually are. And you'll also be unsurprised to learn that the official reason that the developers have given as to why they chose to censor this game was to make sure that it was completely legal in every country. Unfortunately, this is transparently a lie, and there are three reasons as to why this is the case. First of all, the country that's most known for banning certain symbols from video games, specifically Germany, have actually changed their laws in this regard back in 2018. In other words, if you wish to create a historical game set during World War II, it is now entirely legal to sell the game in Germany without censoring it. In fact, Wolfenstein Young Bloods was able to get away with it. So why not Commandos 2 HD? As to the second reason why this dev's response is sheer nonsense is the fact that they also admit in this same response that they have no intentions of creating region-specific versions of the game, which is something that's been an industry standard for decades now. There is literally no excuse as to why this HD remaster couldn't receive the same treatment. But let's talk about the third reason why this is nonsense, and that's the fact that it's not just the imagery regarding National Socialism that gets censored in this version of the game, as the devs here have also decided to censor the Imperial Japanese flag as well as the rising sun insignia on their aircraft. And this is the part where you can argue that their censorship actually becomes hate speech. For you see, within the philosophy of the woke SJW, the purpose behind censoring politically incorrect imagery, such as certain symbols associated with National Socialism, is itself done to make an active statement against that particular political ideology. In other words, censoring symbols associated with National Socialism is this dev's way of saying that they are not okay with National Socialism as an ideology, and by extension that they do not want National Socialists to feel welcomed or represented within their game. The thing to remember here is that the rising sun is not actually a politically incorrect symbol. In fact, it's still to this day used by the Japanese as their national symbol, as not only shown on their country's official flag, but also still is used as an insignia on their military vehicles. In fact, as a symbol, the rising sun is actually the most easily recognizable and utterly identifiable symbol of Japan as a nationality. So by censoring that specific symbol from the game, the devs are effectively broadcasting to the entire world that they are not okay with the Japanese identity as a nationality, that they do not want the Japanese to feel represented or welcome within their game. And in all honesty, if that doesn't count as hate speech, then I don't know what does. But the simple truth is that the devs only have themselves and their efforts of severe censorship to thank for this. Now, some of you may be be arguing that this is an extreme argument in line of reasoning to take, especially considering that I am a strong advocate for free speech and view hate speech laws as utterly unconstitutional by definition. And to you, I say yes, you are absolutely correct in saying that this is an extreme position to take. Unfortunately for the developers, however, I must point out that those who support censoring video games as severely as we've seen in Commandos 2 HD are the exact same sort of people who believe that all games should be viewed through a political lens. So when these particular developers seem to espouse and hold that particular view of the world, I think it's only fair to hoist them by their own petard here, since they are the ones in favor of this particular perspective in the first place. But I do need to point out that I wish to do more here than simply bash the devs. For you see, the story of what happened here has actually destroyed the myth that censoring your game will automatically make it more politically correct, which does appear to be a myth believed by some game developers and publishers. But if this story spreads and becomes widely known, then perhaps a few game developers and publishers will have second thoughts about potentially repeating the same mistake. And in all honesty, a mistake this well and truly was. In case it wasn't obvious, I don't really buy that the devs have it out for the Japanese. My honest opinion is that this was their attempt to be as politically correct as possible, and it just simply backfired on them. But as I've said before, if you're going to support the viewpoint that all games are political, then you do open yourself up to that criticism. But moving on, I'm curious to see if they'll actually decide to continue defending this game as is after I've called them out on the political incorrectness that they've accidentally inserted into it. Personally, I do hope that they actually see the ill of their ways and decide to actually fix the game by de-censoring it. But being the thorough free speech advocate that I am, I would insist that they put back everything that they took out. In my opinion, nothing less will do. So needless to say, I will continue to keep an eye on the situation, and you can be rest assured that I will inform you all should any news come. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.